Hi. Hey, Russ here. Welcome back to my shop. Before I start, real quick, I just want you to see where she spends most of her day is right there. That's Annie. She's mad at me right now, so when I say her name, she's kind of ignoring me. But she spends a lot of her day doing just that, right there. When I had the overhead door open, then she lays on the ground by the overhead door instead. But anyway, life of my dog. She has it made. So anyway, today we want to talk about clamping strategy. And I want to break that myth of you can't have too many clamps. Honestly, it's a myth that you shouldn't buy into, quite honestly. You don't need to. When it comes to clamping, most of the time, you're clamping, you only need 6 or 8 clamps. But every now and then, once a month or have often, but every now and then, you end up needing a whole bunch of clamps. And then all of a sudden you think you use up all the clamps in your shop and you just say, man, I got to have more clamps. So then you go out and buy a whole bunch of more clamps of all the different sizes and you end up with $800, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 wrapped up in clamps alone. I sure would like to have that money to spend on other things instead. And you can, if you follow a system that I have developed. Quite simply, it's all based on pipe clamps. So what I did was, when I first started off, and I needed a starter set of clamps, trying to buy a whole bunch of different size clamps is just so expensive. You know, I might need 6 or 8 short clamps or 6 or 8 medium length clamps. So what I did to begin with is I bought a set of 8 pipe clamps like this, 8 of them, all matching. And I went out and I bought black pipe for them. What I specifically bought was I bought 18-inch pieces. I bought 8 of them because I bought 8 of the pipe clamp itself. I also bought 12 of the 5-foot pieces of black pipe. And I took 4 of those and I cut them in half. So that gave me, when I got done, that gave me 8 of these, 8 at 30 inches long, and 8 pieces at 5 foot long by buying those clamps. And I can take my pipe clamp and stick it on any of these lengths, and I have a pipe clamp that length. So if I need 12-inch clamps or 18-inch clamps or less, I set them up like this. If I need longer ones, I can go here. And of course, the longest one. I also bought couplers. I bought 8 couplers so that if I needed something longer than 5 foot, for example, I needed a couple of 10-footers. I can screw this onto 2 5-footers, put my pieces on each end, and I have 10-foot clamp, just like that. So for a starter set, this was really very versatile, so that I could clamp up anything that I needed to clamp up, and I had what I needed to at least clamp it up. So it was for very little money in all reality, and we'll go over the cost on this in a minute. But for reality, the cost of buying 8 clamps, I got a wide variety of clamp sizes in my shop. Now, as I went along and I started buying up other clamps, for example, I started buying F clamps. And these are the ones that I use most of the time for my simple glue ups. And I bought them in 6-inch lengths. I bought 6 of them. Then I went to the 12-inch and I bought 6 more. Went to the 18-inch and I bought 6 more. Then the 24, I bought 6 more. And then I bought 4 of the 36-inch. I didn't think I needed quite as many of those most of the time. And as you know, as they get longer, they get expensive very quickly. And so that is all I use in my shop pretty much all the time, is 6 of each size. And most of the time, 6 clamps is enough clamps to do most glue ups. If I get into something, the Frankenstein glue up, well, I still got 8 backup clamps that I can put together of any size I would need for that particular case. And I all of a sudden have more than doubled my amount of clamps I need to do clamp ups. And you can still use the 18-inch along with the 12-inch to do some of your clamp ups and things like that. So it gave me a lot of versatile capability, but I actually only bought 24 clamps, 6 of each size, for my basic set. And actually I found that to be more than enough in most cases. And if I get into a real bad situation, I break out my pipe clamps, set them up to the length I need, and then all of a sudden I have more than enough clamps to do the glue up. And when I'm done, take them apart. These all go in a drawer, all 8 of them. All my pipe is stacked up in a little box in the corner, and they don't take up much space. So these 8 clamps take up very little space, and it cost me a heck of a lot less than if I'd bought 8 clamps of each different length. So this was a great starter set to get me started. And after I build up my clamps, this is a great backup set for those unusual glue ups where you need more than just a few clamps. So I have found this setup to be really good for all that sort of thing. So let's talk about, there are basically 2 different types of pipe clamps. And you got to say, well, what kind should I be buying? So first off, let me just point out the 2 types there are. There's this type, which the head end that you crank back and forth has a threaded on it so that the pipe threads onto this piece here, and the tail end just slides up and down to give you your capacity of your clamping, what you want. They also make clamps like this, which has the tail part screws onto your pipe, and it's the head part that moves back and forth. And this has certain application uses, but all in all, this clamp is not near as good as this clamp for a basic setup of whether backup or for as your starter set. I would go with a clamp that is more like this than like this. Now, there's a couple other features about your clamp that you want to also keep in mind. And that is, for example, the foot. When I set this one down on the table, I can set these up and they're good and sturdy. I can crank it and I don't have to worry about it flipping over. This one, that's not so good on. You set this up on the table, it's very weak. And if I start trying to turn it, sooner or later, it flips over on me. It flips over, and that makes it very unstable clamp. Plus, this type of clamp, it has the point of contact for the clamp is here instead of here. And so what happens there is that if you want to put a piece of wood on here, across here, it works okay. But if I was using these, I don't get that clamping power. I actually got to hold it up here to get the clamping power. So you kind of want a clamp that goes all the way down to your pipe level when you get your clamps. The other thing that I don't like about this clamp is the cranking handle of it. It's just like a wing nut. And that's what they give you. On this one, they give you the flat spot on one side for your finger, and they give the other side where you have a turning rod. So it makes it easy to crank it. And if you really want to crank it down, you can put your hand on this, put your thumb on the other part, and really crank down and get some leverage to tighten it down tight if you really want to put some pressure on your clamp. Also, you have clearance under here for the handle, so your hand's not hitting the table while you're working this clamp. Big difference. Some of them, they don't give you this clearance. And the last thing I like about it is, not only is it flat here all the way through, but also it has these 2 holes here so that you can actually attach something to this if you want. And that really makes a big difference too. So when I bought these clamps, these are Rocklers, and they're the Surefoot clamp from Rockler. When I bought these, they were about $10 a piece, and I bought 8 of them. Now they're about $15 a piece on sale, normally around $19. So they're still affordable, and they're very, very good clamp overall for being versatile for what kind of clamping you want to do. So how do you clamp with these? Well, for one thing, you can just set them up, throw your pieces on there, clamp it down, and you're good to go. If you wanted to, let's say you're doing a lot of glue ups on some long, let's say you're clamping up several boards that are 30 inches long each. Well, I can take 30-inch pieces of this, lay it in between there, screw it down through these holes to hold it in place, put another one at this end, and screw it down. And now I have only two clamps for my long glue up of my board. So I can use these clamps and do a lot of glue ups if that's what I have to do, just by having this piece attached at these two ends. And then you say, well, if it's very far apart, you're not really clamping here, you still got to put clamps in the middle. Well, not necessarily. If you take on these clamps, use a 2x4 instead on edge, and screw that down, now you have 3.5 inches of clamping power on both sides that's clamping in. And if you put a slight crown in it, you can get some real good clamping pressure from this all the way throughout the whole length. So there's lots of things you can do, and you do it with a 3.5 inch board laid on its side, gives you much more clamping surface to clamp your piece up all the way across with fewer clamps. So I can actually use these with this and get a better clamping than if I use 3, 4, 6 clamps. I can still get that kind of clamping power from just 2 clamps at times. So it makes it nice to be able to do a lot of clamping up, and I have enough clamps to do all that by doing this. So clamping over long spaces, over long boards, is actually kind of a handy way of using your pipe clamps to do that. Your length can vary. I can take these and put it on my 18-inch pipe, on my cut down 30-inch pipe, or on my 5-foot pipes to get different lengths without any problem. But also I bought some of these couplers which screw on the end of your pipe where the thread is, and I can put 2 pieces of pipe together then and put my clamps on each end and get a longer pipe. So I can take 2 5-foot pieces of pipe and turn it into a 10-foot clamp quick and easy, or a 7.5-foot clamp. So I can actually vary the length quite a bit longer on long clamps, which you need once in a great while probably. And with this coupler, I can go to any length I really have to without any problem. So now let's talk about the advantages other than what I've already talked about. The other thing you can do with not only having these far apart and take fewer clamps, but what about this type of clamp with a long jaw in between? You can buy these also for a long reach onto something. And these are nice too at times, but you know what? Have you ever tried to price these out? These things will scare you to death on price. Well, with my pipe clamps, I already have that. I can use my same pipe clamp that I use here, and if I put a board on here, put the hole in it, put the board on it, screwed it in through here through the holes, and now I have a pipe clamp for a long reach. So now I can take my pipe clamp and put it here and clamp it down and clamp something down way out here on the end. If it's inside where you can't reach it any other way, I can still take this clamp now and get a long reach on it very quick and easily. And now this piece is glued. I can clamp this down when it's real far in. And I can make the same length I want to do this type of clamp. So a long reach clamp from these pipe clamps is something else that's easy enough to do. And it doesn't really cost you anything extra. So now I have 24 clamps that are the deep jaw clamps. Just that quick and easy from this. What else can you do with this? Well, what if you wanted to take it and let's put it and clamp it here with this clamp, and now what I have is an easy hitching post. So I can take my piece of leather that I want to stitch up. Put it into my jaws. And tighten it down, and now I can use it as a stitching post. When I'm done, I can take it loose, move it, tighten it back down, and when I'm done using it, I can take it back apart, take these off, throw them in the drawer, and now I'm back to having it just as a clamp. So, using this as a regular clamp and as a hitching post, you can do that with one of these pipe clamps. So they're very versatile, and like I said, there's other things you can do with it. I can't remember if I mentioned it before or not, but this clamp here, if you buy one of those flanges for these 3/4 inch pipe, has the screws all the way around it with the center threaded hole, and I can't remember what they call them. There's some kind of flange. If I take this off of here and put this down and screw it down onto that, now I have a hold down post or a hold fast that I can adjust for the height, for the thickness of the wood I'm trying to hold down, and I can use this to hold that down. And so you can turn these into a hold fast real quick and easy if you wanted to. And you can do a long reach hold fast by using this method on this clamp if you wanted to, so that you can get a long reach on your clamp. So this is kind of very handy for a set of clamps, and these are only a couple of things that you can do with it. Let's say, for example, you got these clamps, you have your metal pad, and you say, oh, I got to clamp something up, but I don't want to damage the edge of it and clamp it. I don't want to leave a mark. Well, I keep this on hand all the time. This is double-sided tape, Scotch tape. Looks just like regular Scotch tape, only it's sticky on both sides. This stuff is really handy. I use this all the time for scrolling and other things like that. I actually buy this probably by the case, 12-pack of them or something. I go through it all the time. And you can just take this, quick and easy, peel it off, pop it on here, pop it on your clamp, give it a quick twist just to snug it down. And now, this clamp has got a pad on there that will stay on there until I'm ready to pull it off. Pull my double-sided tape off, throw it away, and now the clamp is back like it was. And I throw this back in the drawer to use it again later. So I can put pads on this real quick and easy too by using the quick, easy double-sided tape. Much easier than the normal double-sided tape you see everybody using. This stuff works really well and quick. Much better than that other. So, double-sided tape. And now you have pads on them. The only disadvantage to this you always see, and I've seen it, when you put pipe on here and you glue them up, you get the black transfer onto the glue joint. Well, if you just take a piece of paper towel and throw it over, then when you put your piece down, that'll protect your piece at the glue joint with the paper towel, so you don't get the black marks on your glue joint. So you can use them for glue ups without it turning all your wood, discoloring it. And if that sticks to the glue joint, you just scrape it off with a card scraper or something, or with the OTB utility knife. You can then scrape it all off real easy. So, that's a clamp. These are what I use. They used to be my starter set. Now they're my backup set. And I use it for other things too, as you can see. And I haven't shown you everything that I do with these clamps. I use them for a lot of different things. They're very handy to have around, believe it or not, as a secondary clamp and as a use for secondary things. So, anyway, I wanted to share this with you, show you that you don't have to buy 50 or 60 or 80 clamps to get a nice repertoire of clamps to do your clamp up. And you don't, that way you save on space, because these take up a lot less space than if you had to buy 8 of each different size. And by doing it as a backup, I only get them out every now and then for the big glue ups, and most of the time, my normal set of small amount of clamps, I have less money in, and they do the job 90% of the time. So, anyway, I think that's about it. I want to thank you for stopping by. If you like this video, please say so. If you have any comments or any ideas about how you do this stuff, let me know. And thank you for stopping by. And more importantly, please come back again next time. There's a lot more to come. Bye.